And as I looked over the course of our programs in the past, it has always been adults. But what I've come to realize is some of those keynote speakers can be and are jewels of our students. So this evening, it is with much pride and a heartfelt welcome that I call upon Dior Whitfield to address you. Dior.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We meet here today to commemorate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man of many words, a man with passion, a man with a great purpose. He lived his life encouraging people to carve out a place in this diverse world. He did his work through his ministry as a civil rights activist. And most of all, he tackled various issues that affected many communities and our nation as a whole. Freedom, peace, and good fortune were all greatly valued by him. His name is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I would like to share with you one of the many fascinating speeches that have touched me. Today, I will present an excerpt from Dr. King's speech, "I've Been to the Mountaintop." You know, several years ago, I was in New York City, autographing the first book that I had written. And while sitting there autographing these books, a demented black woman came up. The only question that I heard from her was, "Are you Dr. King?" And I was looking down writing, and I said, "Yes." And the next minute, I felt something beating on my chest. Before I knew it, I had been stabbed by this demented woman. I was rushed to Harlem Hospital. It was a dark Saturday afternoon, and that blade had gone through, and the x-rays showed and revealed that the tip of the blade was on the edge of my aorta, the main artery. And once that's punctured, you're drowned in your own blood, and that's the end of you. It came out in the New York Times the next morning that if I had merely sneezed, I would have died. Well, about 4 days later, they allowed me, after the operation, after my chest had been opened and the blade had been taken out, to move around in the wheelchair in the hospital. They allowed me to read some of the mail that came in. And from all over the states and the world, kind letters came in. I read a few, but one of them I will never forget. I had received one from the president and the vice president, but I had forgotten what those telegrams said. I received a visit from the governor, but I had forgotten what he said. But there was another letter that came from a little girl, a young girl who was a student at the White Plains High School. And I looked at that letter, and I'll never forget. It said simply, "Dear Dr. King, I'm a 9th grade student at the White Plains High School." And she said, "While it should not matter, I would like to mention that I am a white girl. I read in the paper of your misfortune and of your suffering. And I read that if you had sneezed, you would have died. And I'm simply writing to you to say that I am so happy that you did not sneeze." And I want to say tonight that I am happy too that I did not sneeze. Because if I had sneezed, I would have been around in 1960 when students all over the South started sitting in at lunch counters. And I knew that they were sitting in because they were really standing up for the best in the American dream and taking the whole nation back to those great wells of democracy which were dug up by the Founding Fathers in the Declaration of Independence. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1961 when we decided to take a ride for freedom and end segregation. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1962 when men and women in Albany, Georgia decided to straighten their backs up. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1963, when black people of Birmingham, Alabama, aroused the conscience of this nation and brought into the Civil Rights Bill. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have had the chance later that year in August to try to tell America about a dream that I had. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been down in Selma, Alabama to see the great movement there. And if I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been in Memphis to see a community rally around those brothers and sisters who were suffering. So, I am truly happy that I did not sneeze. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will, and He's allowing me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there up with you, but I want you to know tonight that as a people, we will get to the promised land. And I am so happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. And my eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. And once again, my name is Dior Whitfield. And let's all remember the great contributions that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. brought to us. Thank you.